Man, I was really vibing with that music. Hey, ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to the Monday Discourse for today, October 18th, 2021. My name is Tristan, the host of Step Back, and now it's probably not aliens, the podcast that I do now. I stream on Mondays and Tuesdays. Mondays, the Monday Discourse, that's what you're watching right now, goes from 12 till 2. So a nice 2 hours of power with Mia Mulder, who will be joining us shortly. And on Tuesday nights from 7 to 9, I do Step Back Tonight. Of course, those are all Eastern time, so adjust your clocks accordingly. My pronouns are he and him. And you can support my work by going to patreon.com/stepbackhistory by using your Amazon Prime subscription to give one of your free Twitch Prime subscriptions to me. That'd be very, eternally grateful for those. And if you have a little bit of change rolling around in your digital pocket, of course, super chats, bits, Twitch subscriptions, all of those are appreciated and welcome. As far as content goes, my latest video is I was so wrong about conspiracy theories. It's a sort of review of my first video and my evolution on a lot of stuff to do with American history and historiography and stuff like that. So that's fun. And then the latest episode of It's Probably Not Aliens is about the Book of Ezekiel, which involves Andrew Mark Henry, who is a religion scholar. Very good episode of the show. My next video, which I have no guarantee when that's going to be coming out, but sometime before the end of October for sure. But I'm very busy right now with some freelance work. But it's on overpopulation. Luckily, the video's already been filmed, so I really just need to edit. I just need 2 days of work, but at the moment I'm on a tight deadline for another thing, so it is what it is. And yes, if you want to submit some questions for future streams, I'm going to put a link in the chat, which is a link to a Google form where you can submit questions for future streams. Just indicate what stream you want us to answer it on or which ones you prefer. And then, just ask your question. I keep them in the bank for about a month. So if I don't get to yours, just, keep watching the stream and it'll probably show up. Okay. I think that's... Oh, yes. Last thing is, if there's anybody here who it's their first time watching this stream, please make yourself known in the chat. We've got a very large and supportive community that really loves, talking about stuff while we, just kind of yammer on in the background. So I think that's everything in my opening spiel. So let's get Mia up in here. Hello. Oh no. We have silent Mia. Your microphone seems to be not behaving. I will check if it's something on my end too, just to make sure. Alrighty.
There we go. Hello?
Hello! I hear you.
Oh, there we go. Thank God. I forgot I changed my settings from voice activation to push to talk. So.
Oh no.
Everything's fine now. We solved the tech problems.
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I think you may be coming from the wrong microphone.
Oh, I can fix that.
But I'm not super sure. If it's not, let me know if I sound good also, because my audio setup is like still a work in progress.
All right, I just changed it, so it should be better.
Oh, you sound so crisp. I'm good. I'm recovering from having made a video still and starting up my next project. That's
Yeah,
what I'm doing.
I watched your video this morning while I was on the elliptical.
Oh, did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Following question.
I'm like, I wanted to talk about it with my wife, who's a psychologist, and then I'm like, maybe best not.
I mean, I still like psychiatry and psychology. I think it's a good thing to have.
Yeah, it was a good video. I learned quite a bit, and yeah, I do think that I do find there's a lot of interesting things to talk about. How um, it seems that a lot of mental illness has the really great alleviating effect of if you pay people money and make their life stable, everything seems to come together. It's really weird that way.
It's really weird how when you let people just like exist, they're fine.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
but
good.
I've been good. I've been very good. How have you been?
Not bad. Keeping busy. Doing health stuff now. So I'm like healthifying very fast.
You're healthifying.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
Love to healthify. As opposed to speaking of discourse that is happening, Colin Powell just fucking died.
Yeah, Colin Powell. Friggin' crab rave for Colin Powell. Thoughts and prayers, etc., etc. Yeah, another one of George Bush's like inner circle of war criminals has died. We had what's his face a few months ago, Donald Rumsfeld, and now Colin Powell. And yeah, everyone's making jokes about every time a war criminal, American war criminal dies, everyone just talks about Henry Kissinger still being alive.
Henry Kissinger is never going to die.
Exactly. I think that he just keeps absorbing the souls of all these people, and that gives him a natural long life.
How old is Henry Kissinger? He's
He says
98.
90. Yeah.
Good lord.
No one should live that long. Except Betty White. I guess she's okay.
I feel like Betty White doesn't count just because she somehow. Betty White is spiritually young.
Yeah, she's the only nonagenarian I think who's ever dabbed.
I just got the mental image of Henry Kissinger dabbing.
Oh man.
During Vietnam War negotiations or some shit.
I mean, he definitely dabbed on them in one way. But yeah, besides that, it's only been a few days since our last stream, so not a whole lot happened. I just kind of had a regular weekend and all the other things that life throws at you.
Yeah. Just a nice, chill weekend. That's why I mentioned Colin Powell, because he's like the only thing that has happened in the last 3 days.
This is true, which means that I have questions here, and these questions are, we are going to be delving into possibly the dumbest discourse of 2021 that the online left will never give us the mercy of stop talking about this stupid topic. So, thanks, a certain YouTuber who I get yelled at when I mention his name.
Oh god, I'm almost excited about today's interesting discussions. I'm almost, unless it was, of course, but of course I'm not, because it is they who must not be named.
Yeah, so, okay, I don't know if you've heard about this little this is like a kind of bit of historical trivia, but white people from Europe have been very naughty around the planet for the last 500 years or so. You might have heard a little bit about this. Of course,
I've read something in like niche historical journals about how how Europeans brutally conquered the world. Yeah.
Yeah, like all bad things that started with an Italian. And
I mean, you're not wrong.
think about it,
Fuck.
like Europe basically started with Rome. Rome was started by Italians. Fascism started with Italians.
Yeah. Like
Colonization.
global imperialism and like the European exploration, Italians.
Yep.
But damn Italy, you can't be content with just having nice olive oil and beautiful weather and nice wine. You also gotta invent the worst things in the world. Anyway. Yeah.
So, I think we'll get into it when we get into some questions. But basically, I've just been getting a lot of questions from people who I thought were, nominally leftist people who follow my stuff, being like, so how come? Why is decolonization? Isn't it actually bad? So that's going to be a fun topic to delve into.
Ooh.
Is undoing what the Italians have done to the world bad? And why, what's it called? And why the true way to be anti-racist on the internet is to harass a black woman. That's what I've learned. So that's
I have heard rumblings of this, but I'm so glad that I've muted like half of Twitter at this point, because every single day I wake up and I'm mute. Like if anyone even tweets wrong in any case to me, I just mute them forever. So I'm, and even so, I have heard occasionally of this drama brewing like far away across the horizon, and I'm so glad I haven't been dragged into it, and I'm so sorry that you have.
Yeah. Well, that's life when you're talking when you're an educator about things. Yeah. Okay. So so we do answer questions on this stream, and we're getting to this really early because I don't even have the fact that like now Lower Decks is even done, so now I can't even use that to soothe my blood. But either way, it's fine. Fine.
We really do need Star Trek as like a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
Like, that's something we do need.
Prodigy is 2 weeks out at this point, and I don't know.
We're in the bad zone where we don't have any Star Trek and only Discourse.
Yeah, we're so privileged though, because it's like there's no Star Trek, and like before this it was like there was no Star Trek for 10 years or 15 years.
Yeah.
But now it's like there might be 2 weeks off between now and like next fall. So
we're gonna have a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so the first question I got is asking for takes on a specific movement that's going on in North America, Canada, and the U.S. for the most part. And that is thinking about land back as a concept. So it begins. We start off right with that. Do you have thoughts on that?
I don't have tons of thoughts on it. It's not something that I have like been directly connected to. Sweden has its sort of own land back movement, but it's very different from the North American one, and it's very differently discoursed just because like our own history with colonialism is very different from like American colonialism. Because if you don't know, dear watcher, the Swedes basically conquered what is northern Sweden, which hasn't been historically Swedish. It has been historically Sami. And their culture and language and people have been brutally repressed by Sweden. So there is a sort of Sami movement that is like akin to land back, but it works very differently.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know tons of land back, but literally everything I've heard about them from like basically anyone whom I respect has said that the movement or campaign is like generally pretty good.
Yeah, so it's a bit of like it's like a slogan that's becoming very popular within indigenous rights movements here that means a bunch of different things in different places, and this is why if you're, say, a white supremacist masquerading as a leftist YouTuber, you can just take the most uncharitable definitions and then say that it represents all of them. essentially,
I love the energy you're bringing to the table today, Tristan. You're not holding back at all.
I have officially hit my like last ounce of patience with this man. Um, so okay, so the land back movement kind of springs out of a bunch of indigenous movements that started to rise kind of in the post Occupy kind of milieu, where we realize like, hey, like more direct action focused protesting, which has also in indigenous circles roots going all the way back to basically when they were fighting for their own life and their sovereignty and everything like that. But essentially it is a instead of campaigns to say fight for marginally better treatment or economic opportunities or whatever other things like that are like handouts from the state, instead this is talking about land, and specifically about reclaiming sovereignty over their own land that has been stolen, because every single square millimeter of Canada and the United States is stolen land. That is a thing that we just have to air out right now. Canada and the United States are artificial countries that were literally like built from the displacement, genocide, and essentially like ethnic cleansing of the people who it belongs to. And now the survivors of that program are saying, hey, we want to get some more sovereignty over our own territory that rightfully belongs to us. And that comes in many different forms. In some ways, there's some milder forms that are things like, hey, Canada, for example, is like some ridiculous percent, like 70% empty public land. That's just, nobody owns it. It's just owned by the federal government and leased out to like mining corporations, basically. Mining and lumber corporations. It's called crown land, or just federal land. And the United States also has a lot of it, especially in the West. Especially in the West, where a lot of the remaining indigenous population lives. And so the idea is that if Canada and the United States were to respect their own treaties that they signed with these nations and acknowledge that these were nations, then we would need to cede a hell of a lot, basically all of this federal territory, to the people it belongs to. So that's one thing that we should just be giving it to these people. Whether or not they're part of the country, whether or not they want to be their own country, what they do with those resources, how they shepherd and warn that land, is completely in their prerogative, because it's their land, not ours. There's some other ones that are interesting, like doing a program of right of first refusal, which is that if you sell a house, you have to make sure that the people, the nations that your land belongs to, have to turn down the sale before you can sell it to just anybody, as a way to, in a long-term project, get land back into the hands of the people who need it.
Yeah, and that makes it so that like they're not like no land is being like taken or like or even being like purchased or anything. It's just like when someone sells a property, it just means that like they get the first.
Yeah, they get first
grabs for it.
Yeah, they get to choose whether or not they want to buy it before you go and like sell it to anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Then the like more I'm going in like progressively more like radical versions of land back, and then some of the more some of the more like less like radical versions of land back also just talk about maybe like even like something basic like, hey, maybe we should consult indigenous people about our policies about using their land. Like, maybe if we're going to build a nickel mine in their ancestral territory, they might have to have a say over that. That's like, sometimes it's literally that. And then, but like probably the most extreme would be to finally, at some point in the far future, when these programs are, well and established, and we have done a lot of these land transfers, to maybe have discussions about how Canada and the United States are not, like, they are not legitimate states, and like many other countries, like Rhodesia, like the Spanish Sahara, like the British Raj maybe should be dismantled as institutions and returned to the governance of the people who, the rightful indigenous nations of the land. Now, if you are, say, a Tacoma-based man bun guy who only reads the first paragraph of Wikipedia articles, you're going to, and is trying to push a white supremacist agenda, you will use that to assume that that means that they're going to do a mass displacement of all of the white people. That land back means kicking all of the white people out of these countries, including the United States, a country that 5% of the world's population lives in right now. Or, Canada, where that would mean the displacement of nearly something like 36.5 million people. Things that are literally impossible tasks. And also, no indigenous nation in this continent has ever expressed any desire whatsoever to do. It's just an assumption that this is what they do. And that's it.
Yeah.
Probably the most, I can try to think, the most brutal form of decolonization that even comes close to this was only in one country, and it was in Uganda, where Uganda basically told all the white people to leave, and also all of the South Asian people to leave, and it created a small refugee crisis. But this is the Americas. This isn't Uganda. There's a very different political context of what's going on.
Very different stated goals too, right?
Yes.
As you say, this isn't anything that is intended here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking about there are similar discussions in Sweden regarding Sami recognition, because in Sweden the Sami people, they have their own parliament, but they have basically no rights. They're fully seen as Swedish citizens, part of Sweden. They don't really have their own thing at all. And whenever anyone tries to argue for basic recognition over huge tracts of land that has been ancestral grazing land for reindeer, it's either portrayed in the sense of this will either ruin the Swedish economy because there's a lot of ore up there, or these people are secessionist terrorists who want to form their own country by splitting Sweden in two, which is also not really how it works. Even the most extreme goals in the Swedish land back movement has always been some recognition, some basic autonomy, even within the country. And I feel that's basically what a lot of land back movements in America is also advocating for, just the most basic shit, just to own land and have a say what happens on it.
Yeah, I know. And if you say that, a bunch of internet leftists think that you want to commit genocide and ethnic cleansing. Which is
the silliest thing. The internet has destroyed nuance, is what I'm hearing from this, just entirely.
Yeah, well, it's destroyed nuance when talking about people of color and decolonization, specifically.
Yeah. When it comes to interests that deal with white interests, there can be all sorts of nuance. Compromise is very important, and building bridges with those with very extreme ideological opposing camps. There is nuance there. That is true. Anything else, though, it has to be black and white. I'm getting worked up now too. Holy shit.
Yeah, because it's probably one of the dumbest discourses that has ever happened in online left space, and it's because we're in this really ugly situation where an extremely intellectually lazy charlatan is somehow dictating a lot of the discussion on where things are going, because the online left space has turned into this debate space where now no longer it's about justice or doing things right or about caring about others. It's about dominating and browbeating and chauvinistically just attacking people into submission. And that reality, if anything, gets in the way of winning the debate. And so it's more about sticking to your opinions, sticking to your positions, whether or not reality ever comes in face with it, because you can never admit you're wrong. That's losing. And willing your definitions and your concept of the world into reality, which is essentially the definition of fascism. That's essentially what fascists do. They have this whole idea, like if you read a lot of like fascist literature about like will to power and will to rule, where they know that like race is a social construct, but their whole thing is to will these assumptions about the world into existence. And this is and so yeah, and also
you're not wrong here. Like everything you're saying is completely right. But I'm thinking about, there was an ancient counterpoint video where she talked about like how that there in online discourse there are like two different kinds of debates, right? There is this sort of intellectual debate that everyone wants to have and everyone is pretending to have, and then there's the debate that you're saying where you have to like own and destroy your opponents.
Yeah.
In the most like savage way possible, and if you can do it in the most smug way sounding in the most smug sounding way, that means you're right, because only the people who are right are smug.
Yeah. And
God, I hate online discourse so much.
Yeah, and online debate specifically has very quickly learned a thing that a lot of right-wing politicians have figured out, which is that if you are constantly on the attack, never apologize, never back down, never change your positions, even if you are completely wrong and get like owned completely in the debate, what people will remember weeks later is that you looked confident, that you spoke forcefully, and that you never conceded. And they will think that you're right. That happens all the that is like the that is the way that, like, for example, Republicans debate and stuff like that.
Yeah, like Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, like those people.
Oh, even like it's how Donald Trump debates.
It really is. I really feel like the sort of like that, and it's fucked up because I do hear some people say this, like, well, it's useful to talk to discourse on their terms, right? So like, so that they don't have like a monopoly on that tactic. But the thing is, like, as you say, it's a shitty tactic because it ruins everything you're talking about. Like, no one in the world thinks that Donald Trump is actually contributing anything to discourse, or Ben Shapiro, or Steven Crowder. Like, they're just, they're doing show of power in order to like dominate their own position, rather than like reach a constructive like dialogue about anything. So like, by stepping to their level, it's not actually like taking back a space of discourse. You're just making it worse. You're giving up, basically, is what you're doing. You're giving up to their sort of like, to their way of thinking, which is a bad way of thinking.
Yeah.
This is why I don't do online debates. At all.
Yeah. I would do an online discussion, but debate no more. The other thing is, and I've been thinking about this for the last few days, and I feel like this is good. This is like the little seed that will become a video at some point, because if anyone doesn't know, when I was in grad school, my area of historical expertise was on I'm actually like a history of technology person.
That's the best field.
And also I'm a history of communication person, like communications technology specifically, because my like work was all about like the development of the internet and like stuff. And very quickly, when radio was becoming a thing, very quickly unscrupulous actors realized that sounding authoritative and like that the message, like the way that you speak and the way that you deliver your information to a lot of people who listen, especially in the way that they remember things, is more important than the actual message, and that sounding like you're confident is more important than being right. Now, there's a certain political movement in the 1930s whose rise in popularity can be very well tied to the rise and mainstreaming of radio as a platform. I don't think this is not a controversial thing. I think it's pretty well acknowledged that like the rise of fascism in the far right has a lot of, in the 30s, has a lot of links to the mainstreaming of radio, because we didn't understand how that technology worked, and we didn't really understand how powerful having somebody's voice in your home, in your private area, could have on people, because they weren't used to that kind of technology existing. And it led to people like, the big example in America is a guy by the name of Father Coughlin, who was sort of like a clergyman who ran a sort of Catholic radio show, but then started talking a lot more about how much he liked Hitler and how much he didn't like Jewish people, and was like basically the most popular radio show in America at one point. So, is the internet doing that? I'll let you decide.
Yeah.
But the answer is yes.
I mean, yeah, like...
You talked in your video about how YouTube encourages us to be personable, to make people feel like they have an investment in our lives, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that aspect of online social media economy really makes people feel invested in personalities. And again, we're learning again that sounding authoritative is much more important. Because in another way, if you think about how like radio replaced like literature or like books and like public presentations, it felt like it was way more personal because it was in your house, right?
Yeah.
And it was just you and the radio. And the internet kind of like took our broadcast media and made it feel even more personal, because like I'm here, I'm watching you guys chat. Like it's again doing
like
the same thing.
Interactive in a sort of way.
Yeah. I don't like, because what happened is on the other end of this is that the way that radio was fixed was basically through a whole lot of regulation and putting a lot of barriers to actually broadcasting, but that's a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I hate that this time last year I said that red browning was going to become a big problem. And I hate that this is like, it's happening when we're talking about decolonization again. Maybe, am I reading too much into this? Am I just like really losing it, or?
No, I don't think you are. I definitely think that there is a sort of like, I had something that I was gonna say on the tip of my tongue. Like, there's a sort of, I'm trying to come up with the best way to phrase this. There's a big strain in the sort of like online community it's an edutainment industry, right? To which we belong. Where being contrarian is a really good way to sort of like drum up an audience, because you can portray yourself as being like speaking truth to power, even though that positioning you're taking might be like not actually speaking truth to power. It's just like you're speaking against like a very like well-established opinion in whatever social circle that you belong to. So being against, for example, land back is a very like establishment position to take, right? It's a very like traditional position to take, but not in a like not in the like online left circle.
Yeah, because like Justin Trudeau doesn't like land back. He sent the federal police to arrest indigenous people so he could build an oil pipeline through their land.
Yeah, and so I think that all of that combined with, as you say, this like hyper confidence that tricks people into thinking that whatever you say is right, and also the personal aspect where you sort of like attach yourself to an individual on the internet. All of that combines with like people, like creators are incentivized to be contrarian within their own social circle, basically like incentivizing fighting. And with the end result of that being that like no matter what the discussion is, no matter what the actual like topic is, just the matter of just the matter of discussing it can't be done on a like um base level of agreement, right? There always has to be two sides to every single discussion. There always has to be um there always has to be like the correct answer and the wrong answer on every single question. Um, and if you want to sort of like always portray yourself as being the one who is the controversial but correct one, which is a very attractive thing to be, because that's the card Ben Shapiro uses all the time. Then the circle is just never going to stop. You're just going to keep doing that over and over again.
Yeah. And that generates, yeah, as you said, it generates attention, it generates revenue, and people have built entire careers now on just being contrarian to the point of drawing attention to yourself, so that brings in people who buy into it.
Yeah, and I feel like this happens like over and over again. I feel like it definitely happens on. I definitely know it's happening on TikTok occasionally, because TikTok is like YouTube but on hyperspeed. So they don't even have to go through like 8 different atheist phases. But I feel like this happened on YouTube before as well, like within like the atheists YouTube sphere, which was obviously like much more contained and smaller compared to today, just because more people are on YouTube and more people are like into the sort of the political aspect rather than like atheism.
Mm-hmm.
So is this never gonna go away? Is this just gonna keep going? I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm just saying that like everything sucks on the internet and it's sucking faster.
Yeah. It also like to kind of build on that. I as an elder who was around in the atheist phase of YouTube, it was like people like sold it to themselves that like, oh yeah, we're about skepticism and intelligence and like analysis and debate, but really it was just a series of takedown videos of extremely easy to debunk takes. Like it was just takedown videos of fundamentalists and creationists and stuff like that. And the second that it got into anything that had any actual substance, which was, maybe you shouldn't be creepy towards women in elevators, it instantly fell apart and like everyone turned into like reactionaries overnight. To the point where like it's really weird to see that like people like Michael Shermer are like becoming like weird right-wing reactionaries. Or I guess he's been one for a while now. But it's just like, yeah, like the second that any of this had any actual use, because like, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm Canadian and you're Swedish, but like were creationists ever really a threat to society at this point?
Yeah, not really. Like when you're thinking about it, yeah, not. They're annoying, and they're dangerous to individuals, but.
Yeah, like I remember, for example, a man who is obsessed with hating a single woman now, Thunderfoot, got famous for doing a whole series called "Why Do People Laugh at Creationists?" And it was like it was all focused on takedowns, and that's kind of like how this thing kind of keeps going.
Yeah, takedown culture is not great.
No, and again, it's not even about like taking down now is not even about actually like addressing points. It's just about reading enough keywords to appear like you're confident in a position, and while doing absolutely zero research, you can somehow claim that you won because to your fans you looked confident. You invented insane enough hypotheticals to like, what if somebody was dying of cancer and the only cure was being able to say the N-word? Then would you be okay with it? Like those kinds of like hypotheticals. Then it's like, yeah, I don't know. I'm on a high. I'm on high octane today. I drank a freaking energy drink for the first time in a little while, and I'm just like,
oh god,
I just want to like eat a freaking tire. Like I'm just like. And then also I just like got like I looked through the questions that got submitted and it was so much of like, When is it? Like, what's it called? When is it okay to harass the black lady? And it's like, all right. Huh. Okay, so here's the next question we got here is from Orange Man, and it's a much less controversial subject. Mm-hmm. Is there a case for adding Turkey to the European Union?
Yeah, there are multiple cases for doing that. But they all also depend on like extreme hypotheticals that aren't likely to happen. Like, I mean, there are countries within the European Union right now that would not be admitted to it if they were to try to join today, like Poland and Hungary. But Turkey being part of the European Union would also be like pretty good when it comes to just like, well, partially economic cooperation. It would be probably good for Cyprus, and it would probably be pretty productive.
Is Cyprus part of the EU?
I don't know.
Because I was going to say, that's a thorny situation to try and integrate Turkey into the European Union if Cyprus is in it already.
I gotta check, actually.
Because then they would need to figure out what's the fate of the TRC or whatever, the Turkish Republic of Cyprus.
Yeah, no, they are. From what I can see, they are.
Yeah, because, like, what's it called? Half of Cyprus is an unrecognized state called the Turkish Republic of Cyprus.
Yeah.
So, that... Man, because, like, I thought they were so close, but because, like, I thought the only thing holding them up was that France was kind of being a stickler, but I'm like, oh, man, I forgot there was, like, a whole war in the 70s about this.
Yeah, there's, like, a no man's land throughout the Mediterranean island that is still a thing. But there are many things that the Turkish government is doing that, like, would not be good in the European Union. Like, they're not doing great when it comes to, like, recognizing either past or present, like, genocides or ethnic cleansings or just like ethnic repression, and
Turkey needs to learn that what you do is you say those things, then you get into the European Union, then you just go right back and it's fine.
Yeah. That's the Hungary and Poland method.
Yeah. You just have to be a democracy and acknowledge your crimes just long enough to get accepted. Because then, if you become a right-wing dictatorship, they can't kick you out for some reason.
Yeah, it's weird. The European Union is like gonna die in a year now, like just because of how clusterfuck the bureaucracy is. There are reasons for it, but like there are reasons for wanting Turkey in the EU, but like. The only way that would even work in any practical way would be if Turkey was a different country than it is. And it is not. Turkey is what Turkey is today, and that it wouldn't be good for anyone, basically. Even Turkey doesn't even want to join right now just because the European Union is paying them like an obscene amount of money to be the European border police.
Yeah.
And that is not a deal that they want to get out of.
Yeah, if at this point Turkey's like kind of cozying up closer to like kind of Russia and the Spoken Wheel initiative type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
In Cold War II, they're kind of drifting closer to Beijing than to the EU.
Yeah.
So.
God, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that Europe is at long last like being a little bit forgotten. Although, like a tiny bit, you know, like can't we just forget about Europe?
Mm-hmm.
Or just forget.
It's very small if you think about it.
Like we don't need it any. Like the new Cold War can be between like Joe Biden and Winnie the Pooh, and just leave the rest of the world out of it.
Yeah. I do like the idea of like, oh, it's a new, like, we're not too long away from like a lot of the former European like big powers just like I'm thinking about the UK post Brexit, and how like in the new Cold War, like they're like not even going to be able to be a country that can field much abroad. They're just kind of just going to be a like they're kind of moving out of great power and into like middle power status, and they're going to be like on par with like Canada and Australia and like.
I honestly feel that that's already happening though. Like I honestly still feel that that's current. That's an ongoing thing. Ever since East of Suez was a failure, I feel like the UK hasn't been a great power. I feel like since the World War, and even then they were on the way out. So I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting until we can forget about Europe entirely. France is the one left that doesn't want to go. France wants to be a global power so bad. That's why they're so angry about the submarine deal.
Yeah, they were, and also I've seen that they're. This is fun. They're trying to do saber rattling now with Boris Johnson about the fishing water territorial rights around Jersey.
Yeah,
the English Channel Island.
Honestly, just take them. They're closer to France anyway. They should be French. I'm stoking another war in Europe, but I don't care.
But I love that, like, one of the things that people said about the European Union is, like, the European Union was the one thing that prevented, like, all of these big countries in Europe from going to war with each other. And instantly, the UK is fighting with Ireland about what their border is going to be, and fighting with France about their territorial fishing rights. And it's like, oh, yeah, I forgot that was right, because if the European Union was a compromise because Europe is a continent where nobody can stop being at war with each other for more than 10 seconds.
We're addicted to it.
Yeah, so all you have to do is...
crave warfare.
You just have to, like, what's it called? So they all wanted... Because it was fine when you had, like, you know, the nice blue flag with the circle of stars, and then you could just highlight all of Europe, and you're like, look, you're in this map. Look at this map. It's all painted the color that you belong to. It's good. You're good. You don't have to paint more of the map. But if now that the UK is out there, like, we have to find more map to paint. I don't understand. We have to
find more map to paint, and all of Europe is just like, shit. We can paint the UK.
Yeah. If anything, if I don't know what the guy's name is who's replacing Angela Merkel is, but he needs to be dropping like 20 tons of board games onto the UK every week to contain their expansionism.
Who was it who won the German elections, by the way? It was the Social Democrats, right?
Yeah, we need 4,000 copies of Ticket to Ride, dropped stat.
Yeah. I am looking forward to COD Wars, though, because the last time the UK got into the COD Wars, they lost against Iceland.
Losing to Iceland that's just painful.
Listen, they have Viking genes. Like, if you're gonna fight over the water about fish with former Vikings, I'm insane.
Paradox needs to offer like a massive sale in the UK. They just need.
That's why Victoria 3 is coming. They're trying to smooth over the crisis.
Look, it's the one that you were really big in. This is the one. This is the high watermark for you guys.
You're number one on the big list. Look at you.
It's named after your queen. Yeah. My constant development of the busy box theory of game design, the basically that, I don't know if you guys haven't heard this before. I mentioned it a few times. That basically there is a CIA program to contain Europeans from colonizing again by making tons and tons of complicated board games about colonizing, so that every European who has a genetic need to colonize others is contained by them playing ever more complicated board games that simulate conquering and subjugating people.
Yeah.
And that it's like a way for the CIA to contain European expansionism so that the US can dominate the world. Although now I'm like hearing that apparently Paradox is not a very nice company to work for.
No, a lot of that's not really like super big discourse, but that's been a thing in like Swedish Union news, where it turns out the Paradox is just very sexist and very broy, and also has a harsh working environment.
You mean the game that the company that makes all the games that the Nazis like has problems?
It's weird. Apparently, it is better now than in recent years, so they are improving. Like some union report found that like things are bad now, but they were way worse before. So, that's a good sign, but it's still not good.
But they make the map game.
They do make the map game.
Okay, the next one. What event in your country's past do most people point to and say, "Oh, that was caused by aliens"?
The assassination of Olof Palme, our prime minister. Probably.
That's just a fact. So, okay.
It's just a fact. They never found the guy who did it.
Yeah.
And it was on a plain street. Obviously, aliens. He was just too fucking good.
I can't think of one that's done here, but what is interesting is that Canada has like for its population size, Canada has like a extremely high number of UFO sightings per capita, and I don't know why that is.
I wonder why.
What we do have is there's a city called Vulcan, Alberta, which they have the town has built a official UFO landing site, which they have determined like when the aliens come, this is a place that we designed for you to land so that we can make first contact here. And it's a complete tourist trap. I saw it when I was like 10 years old, but they wanted to do it just because their name is Vulcan, Alberta.
It's a good name.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. The last one is, and I don't think I've talked about this with you on the stream. I talked about this on Step Back Tonight, and I feel like this would be an interesting thing to talk with you about. So the next question also comes from Orange Man, which is that I read this article during the Trump administration, so maybe this is kind of tamped down. But there was this kind of Canadian foreign policy journal article that was floating the idea that Canada should consider applying for European Union membership.
Yeah.
As a way to sort of get Canada to a position where it was less economically reliant on the United States. Because Trump was basically showing how we were far too economically dependent on them. So Canada's been trying to make more trade relations with China, more trade relations with Europe. And one person floated like, hey, if we want to like stick to like a grand alliance that has, connections to human rights and belief in like all its freedoms and stuff like that, that Canada should try and join the EU. And that was it. And I brought it up a couple times because I was like, it's not the worst idea I've ever heard. But the question here is that, is there actually a case for Canada joining the EU?
I mean, maybe. I mean, the European Union is only called the European Union because it's mostly in Europe. But like, I can definitely see a case for like non-European nations to join it. I don't think there's a huge like desire, at least within Europe, though.
Like, if Canada formally tried to do it, I could not picture a lot of Europeans being super against it. I don't know though.
Yeah.
Thing is that Canada, if it joined the European Union, would be one of the more like right-wing countries in it, because it's a country that doesn't have universal pharmacare. It has for-profit universities and like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it would be a lot of. I feel like there would be a lot of adjustments to just how Canada works for it to like fit into Europe more. Because like the European Union is, I mean, it's basically just a continuation of Napoleonic Europe. Like after Napoleon went around and just like standardized all of Europe, that makes it easy for a lot of various European nations to like click together because a lot of their systems are very similar. Canada doesn't have that. I think Canada is very same, but I guess the same was true with the UK, right? The UK managed to join, but they had so many exceptions that they had to leave.
Yeah.
Same with Sweden. Sweden is also one of the exceptions outside of the Napoleonic standard, and we also have a bunch of exceptions and we're still in it for now. So I guess it could work. It could work, definitely.
Would we use euros, or would we ask for a currency opt out like we used to have, like the goddamn Swedes do, and all of the Nordic countries that were too cool for the euro?
We have the crown, which is a pretty cool name for a currency.
The only thing I hate about the Swedish crown is that I'll get an email from Patreon that's like, "Hey, you just got a 200 SEK per month patron," and I'm like, "Holy shit!" And then I'm like, "Oh, it's $15. Okay, fine." Like, that's good, but I'm like, I was like, having I was like, I don't know, what is a Swedish, like, Sweden's a rich country, maybe it's like a lot of money. And then it's like, no, it's like that's how much, like, what's it called, like a sandwich can cost.
Yeah, basically.
But I feel like if Canada were to join the European Union, I don't think we're especially attached to the dollar. So,
I just want to tell a quick story about Patreon and about the weird currency conversion.
Okay.
Because I often use the Patreon mobile app, so I can check all my stuff on my phone. And when they did this sort of thing where you could pay in different currencies, what should have happened for me is it should have started displaying how much I get paid in my local currency. But something glitched, which means that and ever since this changed, like 3 months ago or whatever, my Patreon has said that I earn $21,000 a month. And when that initially flipped, I was like, "What? Holy shit! Like, who supported me?" And it turns out that no, it converted the number, but not the unit.
Yeah.
So that's Patreon and currencies are not super good friends.
Yeah. Mexico has a bit like this, because I went to Mexico, and because the symbol for the peso, the Mexican peso, is the same as the symbol for the dollar. So every time you're like $300, I'm like, what? And then it's like, oh, this is $30. Okay.
I had that too. I got so confused.
Yeah. I feel okay. So there's about the currency thing. So Canada, I don't think they would let a new country in the European Union opt out of the currency at this point. I think that was kind of a thing you had to be grandfathered into. But Canada does have a export-based economy, which means that like export of primary resources, which means it's kind of advantageous for us to have a weak currency. But I don't know. That hasn't always been the case. There was a time when the Canadian dollar was worth a lot more than the American dollar, and we just kind of lived with it. But yeah. I don't know. I don't see a problem with it. I think the European Union probably, like, if it could hold itself together over the next few years, because like the idea of the European Union expanding outside of Europe is such like a like, it feels like such a 90s thing, when like now the European Union's like, can we exist for 2 more years?
I mean, hopefully we can. Like, I feel like a lot of people like to what's it called? I feel like a lot of people do. A lot of politicians will huff and puff a lot about Euroscepticism, but I don't think a lot of people actually want to do it, and I think even less people want to do it, especially after Brexit, right? Because like everything coming out of Brexit is just like, it's so much worse than we thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
Even the worst case scenarios, and in some cases you're just like, yeah, this is how bad it's going. So I think even a lot of your skepticists are just like,
Yeah, Boris is just getting an announcement being like, it turns out the people in the UK actually do need food. You're like, oh shit, I should have thought of that before we did this.
Damn it.
I didn't know the UK needed food. And wait, how much food does the UK produce itself? And how much does it import? Wait a minute, it goes in that direction? Wait, and we had free trade with the country that makes all the baguettes, and we decided to stop doing that?
Remember the fucking, like, they said a speech during the Brexit campaigns where there's some, I don't remember what her first name was, but I think it was like Truss something. This blonde lady who was who's a Tory, started talking about like how they're going to like export cheesecakes to France.
Really?
Because that's
you're gonna sell French. You're gonna sell cheese to the French.
I know, right? You're gonna sell British cheese to France.
Yeah, because
I think this is a good economic deal for you. This is a good business decision.
You think that Jean-Francois Guillaume is gonna want to eat fucking cheddar cheese? That's like, all right, I have another idea. You guys can start some pork farms and start selling some ham to the Spanish, and then sell pasta to the Italians. Why not? Just go for it.
Why not? Fine. No, so I don't think that's like... I do think the European Union is going to stick together just because of the nightmare of Brexit. And if it can stick together and actually make something out of itself, and not just be a loose coalition, then I can definitely see Canada joining it.
Mm-hmm. I think that we'd be better off for it, because Canada being so economically dependent on the U.S. is detrimental. And on a personal note, Canada being so hegemonically like Americanized through NAFTA for the last few years has been... I have watched the Canadianness of Canada disintegrate into Diet America over my lifetime. Like, I can remember as a kid, Canada being very different than it is now.
Mm. I'm also just thinking, also from a personal note, like, I would love to just have an easier time traveling to Canada.
Yeah. See, I want European cultural hegemony in the sense that I want like modern European culture. Like I want what's it called? I want DJ Disco Funk from Bavaria to come be like a major person.
You want to have Ozone come over with their European hit Dragons da Dinte.
Yeah, I want polo
Berlin techno, basically.
Yeah, I want like polo shirts with very deep V's to become normal here. Like, I just want Canada to become Eurotrash. Like, I feel like we can do this. I feel like EDM needs to become mainstream in this country. And give me some power metal. I would love for power metal to just like come over, but I guess I don't know. I can't remember. The Nordic countries are like they are in the European Union, but they're not in the currency zone, or they aren't, but they are kind of. I don't know. I know you have a weird relationship with Europe, but
it varies for every single country.
Yeah.
So nothing is easy for the Scandinavian. I think because that's a stupid thing. Like all of the Nordic countries are monarchies except for Finland, who is in the Eurozone. I think they use the euro. Denmark I'm not sure if Denmark uses the euro or not. I think they do. They're in the European Union. We don't use the euro at all, but we're in the European Union. And then we have fucking Norway, who is not in the European Union, doesn't use the euro, but it's basically part of the European like trading initiative anyway. So it varies for every single one. Nothing is easy. This is the nightmare. This is Voltaire's nightmare come to life, but all over Europe.
If Canada's most popular song could become the song Disco Pogo by Diotzen, I think that we'll have saved the country. I look forward for joining. You can't call it the Merkel-Reich anymore, so I don't even know what it's going to be called anymore.
I wonder. I checked up who the guy was, and I already forgot.
The Kaiserina of Europe, Angela Merkel, not being around anymore, does put the EU in a bit of like a interesting where does this go now thing.
I really feel like she held on until she could destroy the UK, which is every German's dream.
Yeah.
She did it, and now she's like, I'm done.
She did what Wilhelm and Hitler could never dream to accomplish.
For centuries, German leaders have dreamt of destroying the UK using warfare, but Merkel realized you can do it using tariffs.
Yep. You know what? I'm having way more fun in the stream than I was afraid I was, because of all this stuff. So yeah, Canada joined the EU. Also, what's it called? There's going to be like a bunch of cultural stuff that we're going to have to do negotiations on, like We're going to have to come to an agreement that France can't subtitle Quebecois movies, which they do, because Joual is so unintelligible to French people that they have to subtitle Quebecois movies.
It's actually quite funny.
And also, Nicola Sturgeon has to stop ghosting the Premier of Quebec constantly, which happens a lot.
Wait, what?
So the leader of Quebec, the Bloc Québécois, typically it was, and it's the Parti Québécois, which is sort of like they're kind of irrelevant now. They've kind of been eliminated in the last election, but they were like the provincial, like, nationalist government in Quebec. And the leader of the party for a while, her name was Pauline Marois. And one of the things she used to do is she kept trying to get photo ops where she would be next to Nicola Sturgeon and like kind of like be like, look, we're the same. Me and Nicola Sturgeon, we have equal cases for our thing. Right, everybody? But Nicola Sturgeon would always constantly like, what's it called? She would always like stand them up and like basically like just never wanted to be in a picture with her. Because I guess it'd be too controversial.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone for the chat, Nicola Sturgeon's the head of the SNP, the Scottish National Party.
Too many things.
Yeah. So it's just funny because she was trying to like be like, yeah, the Quebecois like rush for independence is the same as the Scottish one. I'm like, and they just kept getting ghosted.
Rip.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. This is some news. Did you know that Superman is bisexual now, and this is important for some reason?
Isn't it Superman's son?
Yeah, son of Superman, but the internet absorbed it as Superman is bisexual now.
Which is clearly a crime against male culture.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Mm-hmm. I just remembered. You remember when there was like a meltdown over, I think, some character on Arthur being gay?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know why superheroes being gay is like this big controversial thing. It has to be like a leftover from like comic culture.
Yeah.
But I feel like those dramas have been going on like over and over again for like the last 3 decades. Surely it's over soon.
Yeah. There was a Comicsgate just like Gamergate, so they did the same. They had the same kind of whiny moment. But yeah, so I just remember that everyone's the teacher, Mr. Ratburn in Arthur, and the joke was that there was the Onion made an article that's like the people who make Arthur reveal that Mr. Ratburn is or come out that Mr. Ratburn is a power bottom, and I was like, oh god.
Am I?
If Superman now like bisexual, I sleep. Like Superman being bisexual, whatever, nap time. That's that. There's what's it called? There's it's fine. It's not a big deal to me. For reactionaries, it is, but it's not. Superman comes out as a power bottom. Now I'm interested.
Now we're talking.
Yeah. But
if anyone could do it, it would be Superman.
Yeah. A super power bottom. Because I feel like it'd have to be, because as a top he'd kill people. But that's a different story.
You're right. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you're right.
I went this far. This is apparently a thing I decided to say. So there you go.
I'm glad you said it.
Yep.
It's somehow more fun that way.
So the question we got here next is, so DC made Superman bi, but they didn't actually make Clark Kent bi. They made one of the 2 million alternate Superman, in this case, Jonathan Kent, bi. Is it a problem that these comic book characters can get credit for making their famous characters LGBTQ when what they're actually done is made the more obscure alternate versions of those characters LGBTQ. Yeah, this reminds me of Batwoman being gay too as a thing. Like last year, they got a lot of credit for making the Green Lantern, but it was like the Green Lantern from the Golden Age rather than Hal Jordan or Jon Stewart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like entirely. That's entirely right. Like they want to play both fields. Like they make the character gay, but not the actual character, so everyone gets happy. So to say, it's bullshit. Yeah, it's performative bullshit. I mean, it's good. That doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but it is performative bullshit.
Yeah, the closest they've ever come to like really doing something like this was with Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, but even so.
Yeah, and that's only been sustained like kicking and screaming by the fan base, as far as I can tell. Like, because they have made other things regarding Harley Quinn where they sort of like shuffle out her sexuality a little bit, and the fans will not shut the fuck up unless Harley is gay, or is bi. I guess she's bi. And if that is not like if anyone ever even hints about Harley Quinn being straight, people will riot, and that's only been like through massive fandom action, and that doesn't really happen for a lot of other characters. So like I feel like if DC could, they probably would have, straightified her eventually anyway.
Get over it. Ivy and Harley belong to the gays now.
They do.
They own them. They belong to them. DC no longer has rights to them. Copyright. On the comics says copyright the gays.
God, I need to watch the Harley Quinn show.
It's so good. It's so good.
I keep hearing I need to watch it. It seems very good.
Yeah, I did not regret a single episode of that show watching it. It's so great. I do like where she makes her team of like supervillains who have sort of been rejected for one reason or another. And one of the first ones he gets is one of Wonder Woman's villains who gets like canceled for calling her the C word on television or something. And it's just like, oh my god. Okay. Thank you, Matt Lipton, for the $5 super chat. This was just like when Jane Foster was Thor a few years ago, and jackasses kept saying they made Thor a woman when Odinson was still around.
Yeah, and that's also part of what I feel like that's a good example of the sort of playing both sides thing, because it doesn't actually make anyone happy, because like it's like making Thor a woman because they made Jane Foster Thor. Most people, I think, in terms of like representation, were like, oh, okay, that's neat, I guess. You're just making a female version of an already existing hero, which is like a bit like watered out and like not. People want like original characters of a variety of things, right? They don't just want to change existing characters to be other things. So it's like it doesn't really make anyone happy there, and also it doesn't make anyone like on the fucking comic reactionary, which is apparently a thing now. Doesn't make them happy either because they feel betrayed. So it's just a weird, like drumming up controversy thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of dudes who are just really mad that media isn't made exclusively for them anymore.
Yeah.
If you really want to get revenge, what these guys should do is start getting into media that has been traditionally coded for women and take it over. So make like really like masculine male romantic comedy. Or like a reboot of the Babysitter's Club or something like that. Just own it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta read more comics. I haven't read comics in so long. If my office was more cleaned up, I'd show you my enormous comic book collection, but right now it's a mess.
I am liking that someone was like pointing out that like or that next year they're doing like a Marvel show based on the first, I think, hero that I can think of that was made in the 21st century is finally actually showing some screen time. And it's like, oh, yeah, because like every single with one character that wasn't made in the 70s. That's great.
It's incredible, yeah.
step forward. We made a character because that's the main problem is that we kind of live in this era of cultural necromancy where we can't make anything unless it's based on another thing that already existed. But the thing is that the past was full of unrepresentative, like, you know, there was these fields were very unaccepting to new people and people outside of like a very straight white man demographic. And instead of like, you know, let's make a new thing, they're trying to like, you know, change the thing, and it's like that's going to cause friction, but it's also like leading to a extreme lack of imagination.
Yeah, I remember people making jokes about that like a few like a decade ago about how all media is basically derivative at this point.
Yeah,
and they showed like a graph like how things used to be and how things are now, and like it's even worse now.
Yep. 29.
Like, every single media franchise is a reboot of something.
Yeah.
Or like an adaptation of something.
19 of the 20 top grossing films of 2019 were adaptations, sequels, or remakes.
Yeah.
And I used to play... I play a game when I used to go to the theaters that was when you watch the trailers at the beginning, you give the movie a score based on how many trailers are for... are not for a movie that is a sequel, a remake, or an adaptation, with the only exception being history. And it used to be a score of 1 to 2. Now it's almost always 0.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Because I like... This is the only reason... There's no other reason why. That's why I'm excited for that Roland Emmerich film that's coming out, where the entire plot of the movie is that the moon is crashing into the Earth. And it's like, well, it's not based on a Marvel comic, so I'll take it.
I'll take it. Something.
But also it's unfair because, like, I know this Friday I'm gonna post Worm. I'm gonna watch the Worm movie. Yeah.
Fuck yes. Let me know what you think about it.
I need to see the Worm.
I hope
movie.
you like Denis Villeneuve movies. Because this is the most Denis Villeneuve movie I've ever seen in my life.
I liked Awaken, or I liked, sorry, not Awaken, freaking
Arrival.
I liked that movie a lot, so...
Yeah, then I think you'll like this one.
Yeah, I can't wait. The Worm movie is coming out on Friday. I have D&D on Friday, so on Saturday I'll probably see it, and I'm pretty excited. Okay,
Finally, the internet will post Worm along with me.
Yes, we will all be posting Worm. Okay, as a trans woman, you are by definition pretending to like comics to steal it from men.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my huge collection of fucking, like, weird comics is definitely to steal from men. Yeah. I am by definition, yeah.
Okay, the next question we got here is...
Wait, hang on. I stole them when I transitioned, when I came out.
Yeah.
That's when I stole my collection.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It was part of the paperwork.
Exactly.
Or the motivation you did in the first place. You're like, I hate fans of comic books so much.
I hate comic book fans so much. Despite being one, I'm going to hate them now. I'm going to destroy them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the next question we got here is, do ancient alien people ever bother trying to explain why aliens didn't interact with societies we have good records from, even if they were supposedly on Earth when they existed? Like that king you mentioned about, Pakal, he lived not long after the Byzantine Empire was at its height, but we don't have any text where the Byzantine writers talk about being visited by Mayan spaceships. How do they try to explain that? Very good question. The answer is they don't, and they hope that you don't think too hard about it. It does seem that the aliens only show up in civilizations that don't have a lot of written records. It is kind of a weird thing about them.
Weird how that keeps happening.
Yeah. Next we got... Oh yeah, here's the question where it's reformulating the, like, tell us that we can attack the Black Lady, but in more words.
Oh, no.
So, imagine an island with a Stone Age native society. One day, a ship from a more advanced, at least in terms of weapons tech, society spots the island and the crew decide the island should be a good place to have a port. A few months later, the ship returns with several other ships. The little armada pick a good-looking bay, then go ashore and kill all the natives that live there. Once the bay is clear, they build a town on the site. So here's my question. How long does the colonizer settlement have to be in place before it starts becoming morally problematic for the natives to try and kick out the people who live there?
What an interesting hypothetical scenario.
Yes.
That is so simplified that it does not actually exist in reality. I love thought experiments.
Yeah.
I like weird hypotheticals. That's not how morality works, I would say, first. And that's also like I guess that's an oversimplification of how land back works.
Yeah, it's also missing like a lot of like these things have mean different things in different contexts.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Oh man, we've spent a lot of time talking about this today already, but this is sort of like it's one of those things that doesn't have an answer. Like one of the things that the definition of when you've made too much money, so you're not a socialist anymore, is when you make more money than the person who is trying to figure that out. More than me is always the answer for how much money is too much money. You're no longer a socialist. And
yeah, I have a point that I thought about earlier, but I forgot about, but now I remembered it again. A significant part of like native activism, because I straight up talked to a native activist like last week about this stuff, about Sami stuff. However, the problem of like native activism and land back and reparations and anything like that has an absolutely fuck all to do with historical crimes or historical wrongdoing or even that. The only reason why people talk about those things now is because they are still today actively harming community, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like there have been communities that have, reclaimed their land or whatever, but no one talks about them because they don't really have to do any activism because they're done. Like the reason why land back is a thing that is happening right now is because like there are like tribal communities and native communities who have lived on land for a significant for ages and that land is being all taken away from them.
Yeah, and in many ways
that is still happening. Like it's not a historical thing. Like it's still ongoingly happening.
Yeah, like you'd be shocked the size of the North American continent, how much like square footage of land is something that we are only counting as part of these states because we are choosing not to honor agreements and contracts we made with the indigenous nations that still exist.
Yeah.
Like, for example, one of the big examples that that kind of came up recently is the Wet'suwet'en people in British Columbia. So what happened is that they live on unceded territory, which means that they've never given up this land to Canada, ever. It's not part of it. But what Canada did was disregard the indigenous government and instead make their own government. And then they got that government to agree to build an oil pipeline through their land. And then when the actual indigenous government disagreed with that assessment, they blockaded the pipeline, and the police just showed up and like manhandled and threw them off, despite the fact that this is, if Canada honored its like agreement with the Wet'suwet'en nation, it's not their land. It's not Canadian territory. Yeah. They can't take it. And huge chunks of Canada are under these kinds of contracts where we made a contract with a group of people and then didn't honor it. And
or like made an obvious a contract under like an unfair contract, right?
Yeah. And even with that, like even in specifically the Canadian and US context, a lot of that land has not been privatized. It's not been sold to individuals. it's just federal territory that gets leased to like farmers or resource corporations. Like in the US, a lot of it gets like a lot of the land is like desert, or it's like land that they lease to farmers for like cattle grazing and stuff like that. And in Canada, it's like areas that we lease to like what's it called? To like mining corporations or lumber operations.
Yeah.
And it's like if we just like if we like literally like if you talk to indigenous people, which is a thing that is extraordinarily missing in this whole conversation that we've been having, it like what they want is to for us to honor the agreements that this country made with those people.
Yeah. And like it's not, and I feel like the significant part of it is also like ignoring the fact that like, because people will always drag it to the furthest extreme, right? Oh, like they will always say like, oh, so, like we have to leave the entire continent. It's just like no. First of all, no, because no one's arguing that. But secondly, like there have been treaties that have been honored. Like there have been, like I remember. I heard sometime, I don't know the exact details of it, but I heard on Well, There's a Problem podcast about how there have been like territorial trade between like settlers, I think in Pennsylvania, and some natives, where they just paid a fair price for it, and the natives were happy, and the settlers were just like, okay, we got it.
Yeah.
And everyone's fine, like, and no one's arguing even like that today, because like they honored that contract, they honored that treaty. That's like they did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And that's literally just like the argument here, right? To as you say, like hold up the thing.
I would even say that given the shit that we've done and continue to do to these people, it's a real testament to the kindness of these people that they're not thinking about these kinds of things, that this is not a discussion they're having. Like, honestly, like, white settlers in North America have more than earned their eviction notice, but that is not on any of these people's agendas whatsoever. They just want, like, most of the thing, like, a lot of these land back people that, like, that they're demonizing as, like, genocidal maniacs, you know what they want? They want sovereignty over a lot of territory they don't plan on exploiting or living in. They literally want to control it so that they can prevent resource extraction and environmental destruction. Yeah. They're literally like, we're trying to preserve the territory. We're trying to make it nice so that we're not living in a polluted hellscape.
And oftentimes, right, like it's also land that they're like currently already living on. Just not like legally in like a spreadsheet somewhere, right? Because like as you said with the example with the Wet'suwet'en, that and the same thing is true in Sami communities, that like here in Sweden, where like there will be huge tracts of land that indigenous people have lived on for a long time, currently still live on, but they don't just like. They don't like legally own it in within the framework of the settler state, right? So the land back in many cases is just like to do paperwork.
Yeah, like because like a lot of indigenous nations here in Canada have a 7-generation worldview on things, where they literally like, we are not going to do anything unless we've like considered its effect on 7 generations of people, and. They are seeing land that legally, if we followed the law of the treaties we made with them on like another nation, like they are a different country in ways, if we were to give them the rights that they were legally entitled to, they would be able to stop that. And it's just, and sometimes they're like, and also just like, even if they do misuse the land or something like that, it's their fucking business. It's their land. It's their thing. It's just,
it's fine.
I hate this conversation so much because it's just like, it's just such a huge mischaracterization of what these people are talking about, and it's being used almost exclusively to basically like attack a whole bunch of people of color who are trying to just like control their own, like have any sort of like sovereignty. Like the indigenous people of Canada like are shuffled off to these extremely remote places where like hundreds of communities don't even have fresh drinking water because the government refuses to like build the infrastructure for them. And it's like, how is there any, I don't know. And then yeah, like this also gets expanded in the same guy about the same things to black nationalism, where he conflated black nationalism with black separatism and like what's it called? Even like kind of weird Hotepi stuff, and says, oh yeah, well this is black nationalism. Marcus Garvey, indistinguishable from white supremacists. And it's like, oh my god, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
That's one of those takes when I heard it, I was like, that's enough internet for me today.
Yeah, but I thought like I'm like, okay, this is a dumb argument. Hopefully it'll go away when people smarter than me have write out their takes on it. But it just keeps going. It's an idea that won't die because it's being promoted by a person who cares more about projecting confidence than being right and getting to the truth of things.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you do that thing, also when you project confidence in that weird way, you attract a fan base that does the exact same thing. That's why you have people like the Ben Shapiro fans who go around talking about how they're like facts don't care about your feelings, and that's also how you get people on the left now, like repeating the same talking points with the same kind of like false confidence, but except one person doing it, it's like 300,000 people doing it. Yeah. Which is not good.
Mm-hmm. I've just been blessed by it not showing up on the radar because,
same. Like, thank God.
And then, didn't Marcus Garvey work with the KKK? I don't know about that. But even if that, what's it called? Even if that is the case, there's different black nationalists who are not working with the KKK that had their there's a reason. Okay, all right. Let's do this. Okay, so you know that before Europeans arrived in the Americas, indigenous people didn't think of themselves as belonging to one identity group. They were a bunch of countries and nations. Yes. We all know this. This is good. We acknowledge this fact about reality. It turns out that Africa was very similar, being a gigantic continent with many, many countries and different cultures and nationalities. And even after after the transatlantic slave trade, lots of different cultures and identities and all sorts of stuff sprung up around the colonial world. And black nationalism was about, hey, all of us, on this side of the Atlantic, on that side of the Atlantic, we all have a common experience of being victims of colonization, and we need to build a collective identity that's focused around our role within the racial caste system of the white supremacist colonial world. And that's what black nationalism is. It's a very different thing from black separatism, which is it's a position that I don't necessarily agree with, but it's not one that I don't understand the logic of saying that, hey, we live in these white supremacist societies where we're treated like second-class citizens and given no opportunities or anything. And instead they just go, it'd probably be better if we, built our own communities outside of these white systems so that we can thrive. And yet somehow that's the exact same thing as being a fucking neo-Nazi in the mind. I'm like, okay. There's a Professor Flowers video on this that is so much better than what I'm explaining it right now, and just watch that. Just watch Professor Flowers' latest few videos, and you'll be fine. I did reach out to her, and I think we're gonna probably work together on a video in 2022. So hopefully we'll make something cool out of that.
I need to do that as well.
Yeah,
I've been meaning to do that.
Okay. I got my last question from the list because we've been very productive. Despite the fact that we've gotten on a lot of tangents, we've been very question productive this stream.
Oh yeah.
So so this is a question for you, Mia, I believe.
That's me.
Yeah. It's a Mia. So a while back, I told you I wished it was against the law for people who are unwilling to support social democratic policies to hold office. Suppose some country actually tried to do that. Pass a law that says you can't hold office unless you pledge support for social democratic policies. How would that go horribly wrong?
Sorry, what did you say? You roboted out a little bit.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So suppose some country tried to pass a law that said you can't hold office unless you pledge support for social democratic policies. How would that go horribly wrong?
I mean, the initial part would be that social democratic policies could mean anything now.
Yeah.
Like people would dictate what social democracy means in a way that we don't really do right now.
Yeah.
This is something that has happened with many authoritarian regimes of all sorts of political inclinations, where they will say that what I am doing is the thing we've always been doing, even though they're doing something very more authoritarian than they did before.
Yeah, the first things come to mind. Yeah, how do you, as you said, how do you define social democracy? Because as a European, you would know that it has a whole lot of meanings now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it means a whole lot of things in a lot of different countries. The second that I always think of is every time a law that is put in place to suppress types of political speech or political organization, it's almost exclusively weaponized against the left.
Yep.
Like, for example, even, like, this isn't a law, but, like, let's just say, as a, person who is on the left side of the Social Democrats, we don't exactly have the greatest relationship with the Social Democrats. Like, there was this whole Spartan Revolution thing, if you remember, in Germany. It was a whole... There was a Rosa Luxemburg, I think, at one point, and some stuff happened with the Social Democrats.
Stuff happened, yeah.
Yeah, but even in a little while, like Canada's Social Democratic Party, the NDP, even during our election that came up, has had, like, the party's done active work to try and suppress socialists in the party from trying to become a bigger force. Like, Canada's version of, like, Bernie Sanders or Jeremy Corbyn is somebody by the name of Nikki Ashton. She's a MP for Winnipeg, which is sort of like a city, like, very small city in the middle of the country. And during Jagmeet Singh's campaign, or Jagmeet Singh, sorry, I've been pronouncing his name wrong. He's a social democrat. He went to her riding to run an event and accidentally brought two people on board for the presentation that were supporters of the Liberal Party opposition to her. And basically at a NDP event had these people endorse the Liberal candidate. And if that's not a way for Jagmeet to be like, try to, like, kill the socialist movement within the New Democrats, I don't know what is. Unless it was all just an accident. I don't know. But yeah, social democrats have a habit of attacking socialists more often than they do, like, the right.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Australian guy's not in right now because he would not like these answers. That's more or less. She's a MP for Northern Manitoba, not Winnipeg. Oh, for some reason I thought she was an MP of, like, part of Winnipeg. I gotta find out now.
I would not know.
She's cool. She ran for leader of the party while pregnant with twins.
That is pretty cool.
And participated in a debate when she was in her, like, third trimester, so she couldn't travel. So she participated via, like, Zoom, which was like, this was like in 2017, so it's before that was normal. What is she the MP of? Churchill, Kiwatanuk Ask. Okay. Yeah, you are correct. It is very much not part of Winnipeg. Okay. My bad. I guess I'm not caught up on Manitoba politics. Australian guy bad up and out. No, there's just an Australian social democrat who is a regular in the stream. And I don't know if he likes when I not play nice with the social democrats.
social democrats can be nice when they don't like are actively anti-left.
Yeah. When our goals align, they're great.
They're great on the rare occasion.
It's another situation where like kind of like what the Marxist Leninist versus anarchist talk, where it's like I dream for the day when the distinctions between us are actually going to be something of political importance.
I mean, yeah.
Those are
When this
good bumps to
matters,
happen.
when this matters, we're already like well on the way to a good world.
Yeah. I love, like, yeah, if we're going to be having discussions about whether or not and how centralized the state should be under communism, I'm like, okay, you know what? If I can get us to that point by the time I die, I'll consider that a major win. I'll take that W. I'll take that W. Okay, so that was actually all the. Let's check let me check the slush pile and see if anyone's submitted some during the stream that we can go for.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we're just question answering machines. I didn't know if you guys knew, but we are very good at answering questions. That's why we did so much school.
That's why we got degrees in history.
Yeah, we were the kind of people who legitimately thought it was a good idea to just keep going to school forever instead of being cool. No, it's cool. Stay in school, everybody.
It is very cool to have a history degree. Like, I say that actually not ironically. I think it's actually cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay, first question here. Not going to require a lot of nuance. What are my thoughts on guerrilla gardening? Fucking based as shit. I love it. I love that shit so goddamn much.
Guerrilla gardening?
Yeah, like in one example. Yeah, like I love one. So anyone doesn't know, guerrilla gardening is like when people try to illegally grow food and stuff like that in places where they're just planting plants for prettiness reasons. Like there was this story that was covered in Positive Leftist News where this activist was going around San Francisco where they have these, like, I think it was like orange trees or something like that they keep in the streets, but they're just for looks, so they're just all like one sex of the tree, so they can't grow oranges. And she's just going around grafting like the other sex's limbs onto these trees so that they could reproduce with each other and just start having like free fruit growing in the street. It's like, that shit fucking rules. And there's no universe where there is any problem with that whatsoever.
There were some people in my university town a few years back that would go around and plant weed, like in the forest and parks and just everywhere. For people who just take, and they would post the locations of them when they were like ripe for harvesting.
Mm-hmm.
In like secluded woodland areas that like no one's been to in like fucking ages, to the point where the cops would have a small like detachment just ready, just updating the location page over and over again until they found a new place and just would go out and destroy it. So there would always be a rush whenever the location thing came out of students just rushing to this like secluded little weed farm.
Mm-hmm.
So I am very much in favor of that stuff. It's helped out many a college party.
There's something very like anarchisty about like, yeah, we're just gonna plant like food and drugs everywhere, and you can just pick it up if you want it, and it's just free.
It's free. Some people did that, like also in my old university town, by the way. They just put some planter boxes, just like in the park, like not permitted to do so, but just put some planter boxes and with onion, tomato, aubergine, and some other things, just like nice veg.
Yeah, I live in a kind of like I live in a champagne socialist neighborhood, I would say. Like it's like a place full of like 100-year-old houses where like everybody are probably a lot of like professors and like highly educated people, but people who are like on the like still like kind of left wing in their tendencies. So it's a lot of like quirky old houses with like things. And what like so there's a lot of like things like my little libraries and stuff like that. But one I saw is, yeah, this person who just grows an herb garden on his front lawn, and it has a little sign saying, like, here's some herbs, cut some off, bring it home for dinner. And it's like, aw, this is the wholesomest shit. Someone did ask, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, like, I long to live in a world where the trees in cities are apple trees.
Yeah. I know it makes a bit of a mess, but I think that people having free apples when they want them is more important than that.
Yeah, it's fine.
How do the Haudenosaunee assess the 7th-generation effects when they decide stuff? They just think in the long term. It turns out when you think past, like, next quarter, you decide on things about resource extraction differently. I know it's weird to say, but all right. So yeah, guerrilla gardening, base of shit. All right. Let's see. Mikey, sorry for being part of you having to subtweet somebody. Any experiences with weed? For legal reasons, I can say that I enjoy cannabis because as of 2018, it is a legal substance in my country, and I am of an age where I am allowed to smoke it as much as I want for recreational reasons. I'm trying to find my vape pen to show how cool I am. So I've got one around here somewhere. But I imagine you, as a Swede, do not partake in weed because to do so would be a crime.
It would be a crime to do so. I have never done so. In fact, I have never ever participated in the devil's lettuce.
No.
It is sinful and it is illegal, and I never have and I never will.
There you go. You didn't inhale.
I have smelt it, but I have reported it to the police.
Yep. While, I smoke it occasionally. I think my vape pen is either running out of juice or it's running out of power because I'm not getting much of a hit anymore when I use it. But, yeah. One of the things, just kind of on this note, I'm so blown away by how weed became legal in 2018, and like it's actually insane how little happened. Like it's just legal now, and like the world didn't end. Like weed smoking did not go up in a huge amount. There was no public health emergency. The only thing that I have noticed that is in any way different about anything whatsoever is now I get annoying promoted tweets and ads about weed. Like now I get weed commercials. And like, okay.
That's something that I saw when I flew through Chicago. Something unreal and that I had never seen before or since. Yeah, were like ads for weed and edibles.
Yep.
Something that does not exist here.
I do also, one of my favorite things, and as a Swede, you'd probably seen more stuff like this, but it will never not be hilarious, which is when Canada legalized edibles, or when Canada legalized weed in general, the main place where you could get it, because it took a few months to a year for the private weed companies to sort of pick up. So the place that you bought weed from was the OCS, or the Ontario Cannabis Store, where, and I have done this, where you can purchase things like an OCS branded bong or a grinder, which is you can buy a government bong, which is amazing. Just like how you were talking about buying a government sandwich. And like, I love the idea that when edibles came out, they were like, here is the OCS. So here is the Ontario government's provided gummy bears and like those things. And I'm just like, there's something so wholesome and strange about this at the same time. Like buying government weed candy. I have a thing, I think it's in the other room, or my old desk is, that's like, I got like weed infused chocolate from the Ontario Cannabis Store. And so it's got like a wrapper that's like an official government wrapper. But it's like weed chocolate. It's great.
I wish I could tell stories.
Yeah.
But I'm legitimately worried that if I say something on stream, that like a police officer will show up at my door, so I won't.
But if Sweden ever
all I
does,
can
that's how
say
they
is,
do it.
yeah, I am looking forward to the day where I'm looking forward to the day when I can also buy stuff from the government store, because we already sell alcohol through the government store. Can't be that much of a stretch.
Yep. Sorry, I was
One
distracted
day.
for a second. You'll catch up in the video in a second.
Oh God. All right.
Sorry, that's me bragging.
It's actually illegal for me to be in the stream anymore.
Oh no.
I have committed a crime against God and King.
Against Queen Victoria. Or Princess Victoria. It's not the crime is you won't it's what's it called? It's Scandinavia, so you won't go to jail, but you have to personally apologize to Princess Victoria for your crimes.
I have to go after her, but I'm very sorry.
All right.
I'm actually frustrated. Speaking of the drug question, I'm actually extraordinarily frustrated because a lot of political parties are having like their summer conferences this summer, and every goddamn fucking year, the entire left just drops the fucking ball on this once again. Like the environmental party doesn't like it. They don't like it at all. The Social Democrats, they think it's stupid and they don't want to legalize anything at all because they also think that it's going to increase crime and make people kill each other on the street. And the left party doesn't want to do it either because they're like stuck in the fucking 1970s. And when it comes to social policy, they haven't evolved since then. I'm so fucking frustrated because the only people who are now like in support of it is like the libertarians and the conservative youth party, which means that the conservative party is probably more likely to legalize marijuana before the left is.
Oh God.
Like it's so cursed here.
Yeah, it was.
I can't have shit.
When they were legalizing it here, one of the things they did was like every province, because our provinces are so independent, had to find their own path to legalization. And in some places, like in Alberta, they had this situation where it was like still functionally illegal unless you owned a house, because they basically made it that landlords could ban smoking weed in their buildings and retroactively apply it to your rental contract. And furthermore, it was illegal to smoke in public, so you couldn't smoke if you were renting, basically.
Yeah.
And then in Canada or in Ontario, we were going to have an issue like that too. And then the Liberals lost the election to the Conservatives, and the Conservatives were like, "Nah, it's fine. What's it called? If you're 19, you can smoke weed out in public. You use the same rules as smoking, basically." And it's like, okay, we've had a lot of downsides to Doug Ford being premier. Some of them, like literal body counts because of COVID, but that was one that came in at just the right moment to not turn Ontario into a really fucked situation when it came to weed. Okay, next question we got here is, Skull Island. Given how wrong our ideas about dinosaurs were in the 1930s, I have to wonder if a group of sailors from back then really found an island full of dinosaurs, if they'd be even able to tell what they were looking at. I mean, would they get back to New York and be like, there's an island out there full of giant birds with claws? So, like, it's basically like, how, like, in the 30s we thought dinosaurs were basically lizards?
Yeah.
So that if in the 30s somebody actually saw dinosaurs on an island, they would just look like a bunch of giant birds.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
With giant weird birds running around.
I'm kind of sad that we can't use like we haven't done more dinosaur burb memes. Like burbs are they're very like goofy animals if you have them as pets, and we haven't done more about dinosaurs being like having silly bird brain theories and stuff like that.
I remember one Tumblr meme where someone showed off like a penguin skeleton, and the penguin skeleton is really weird, but it's also very different from how, and a penguin looks very different than what you would assume a penguin looks like from just its skeleton. And so someone took like the body shape of a penguin and like adapted it to like to dinosaur bones and like a T-Rex, which just makes the T-Rex is really just like a huge chicken, basically, just like a gigantic chicken.
Yeah. So we don't know about how like chunky
that.
and fluffy many dinosaurs were.
Yeah, exactly. But like we don't like muscle doesn't keep as well, right? So I like to think that they were all just like chunky birds.
Yeah.
Because they don't fly, and every flightless bird is a little chunky, and I love that. And like goofy, like they run around on their fucking feet.
Yeah, I would love if like because you know how they put their arms out and they do the waddle. If like dinosaurs did that, like the T-Rex just like kind of like waddled forward.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
See, this is the Jurassic Park I need, where they're just goofy, like they're not actually dangerous.
They're just
They're
like
just
big,
a little weird.
They're big dumb birds.
I also like the theory that the T-Rex is just like a scavenger, like it doesn't hunt. It's just like a big goofy, like scavenger bird. I love that. Gets scared of like a rat running around. Yeah.
I also like the idea that it had like you know how birds have those like jerky motions and like they tilt their heads and stuff like that. I'm just imagining giant dinosaurs moving like that.
That's what I need.
Or just like all of the silly things that birds do, like what's it called? Like the T-Rex having like just like a gigantic tail full of feathers and it like does silly dances to attract mates and stuff like that.
See, that's what I want. That's what I need.
Mm-hmm. We didn't make our dinosaurs nearly as silly and cute as they would have been.
Thomas Gray just blew the lid of this entire thing. The T-Rex will be clucking. But imagine now, like, because everyone has been depicting dinosaurs as roaring, right? But imagine if it's just like...
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Yeah, I remember when I was in audio engineering school, we had a project where we got the scene from the scene in Jurassic Park where the T-Rex like fucks with the car, like that whole sequence. And they took all the sound out and we had to replace all the sound. And my T-Rex roar was like an extremely down-pitched like kind of like a red-tail hawk scream. I thought that worked really well.
I can see that fitting extraordinarily well.
It wiggled its tiny arms to attract mates. Oh, bless the Carnotaur. Oh man, dinosaurs are wholesome, everybody. That's the new trick.
I like to think so.
All right, we've got about a minute and a half left of the stream, so we should... Oh, wait, Ted Cruz is trending. Please be dead. I mean... No, he's not.
Damn it.
But he did
his pants, you know.
He did just get owned. So that's fun.
Did he get owned?
Apparently, he criticized vaccine requirements in Australia, and the Australians are just like, "Yeah, fuck you, buddy. We don't need your lectures, thanks, mate." Oh man, I love how there's only one political position that everybody, no matter what their political background, can agree on, and that is hating Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we go, you should tell everybody where they can find all of your content and devour it for all it's worth.
You can devour content on miamulder.com. It will take you to my YouTube channel for now. Still building a website. It's taking forever because I'm busy and also lazy and also busy with other things. You can find my tweets on twitter.com/potatopolitics where I rant a lot. I've been ranting a lot about booba recently. I'm gonna tone it down. It's been a lot of booba talk. You can find my Patreon on patreon.com/miamulder. You can find my podcast that I do with a friend called Leech Fest by searching Leech Fest on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can also watch my Twitch streams on twitch.tv/miamulder. And we just recorded, and speaking of the podcast, by the way, we just recorded a Halloween episode where I
Ooh.
talk a little spooky medical history and we read some creepypastas because it's Halloween.
Yay. Alrighty, everybody. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow. We're going to raid Left Flank Vets. And yeah, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and yeah, do what makes you happy.